students, I've gotten a lot of questions about how to create a template for your assignments, and I often advise that you create a template, and that is because a lot of students are coming from graphic design background. They spend a lot of time on their assignment design itself, and that's great. It should be beautiful, but you also, if you're not coming from a graphic design background, you can create a template that's still well laid out, but it's just simple, black and white, still thoughtful, still nice alignment, but not spending too much time on it because you want to also get through the curriculum. And if you're a beginner at design, there's a great chance that at the end of this curriculum, you're going to be a better designer, hopefully. So you don't want to lock yourself into a design, an overly complicated design uh, presentation that you outgrow because you end up learning more and your tastes change and you get better. Um, I always talk about Apple's website. Apple is a great example because it's just black and white with nice alignment, and the colors and interest derives from the photos. So anyway, I'm using Sketch. I suggest that you use Sketch rather than PowerPoint or Keynote or Adobe XD, whatever you're going to prototype in high fidelity. It's not a bad idea to get the hang of it right off the bat and use one of those programs just because you will have a shallower learning curve when you go to make your high fidelity wireframe. You'll already have some idea of how the program works in a simpler way, rather than getting to section 3 and then starting to learn the program then. This is kind of a nice way to ease into it. That doesn't mean you can't use Keynote or shouldn't use Keynote or PowerPoint. If that's what you're comfortable with, then of course go right ahead and get into it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I mean by a template. You probably, because the tasks are so varied, you probably won't, you'll probably, I would suggest that you kind of build types of pages, design patterns for your assignments, and reuse them. It doesn't mean that you're going to have one template that fits every single assignment because there are varied and you may need to modify certain pages or change them. So first I'm just getting it into how I created this. This is in Sketch. I just created artboards that are roughly a desktop size. I picked a custom size of 1200 wide by 800 high. That's for like a smaller size screen. It's not a standard size. You can choose standard sizes here. Like a normal responsive web size might be 1440 by 1024. That's for an HD desktop. You can see that here. As long as it's relatively rectangular and probably no wider than 1600 pixels, it should look fine. You can make it scroll if you want. I think pages are easier when you're formatting as a PDF, and it kind of presents better. It will allow you to pick and choose certain screens for your portfolio later down the road rather than being locked into one super long scrolling assignment design. And what I mean by that is if I take this artboard and just drag it, it becomes a website, a scrolling website size, right? But I'm going to keep them more like slides in kind of more of a print format here. So what I did here is I just used one clean font. I introduced some font hierarchy. The first thing I did was create a header font. I'm using this font Montserrat. I created the header, and then I established the font here so that I can reuse it over and over again. How did I do that? Let me show you. So if you press T and you create some text here, this is text. If I wanted to save this text style, I would go over to this right panel and press Create. And I could name this Body Text Style 2, because I already have one. Enter. And now this lives over here. If I wanted to change this to one of these text styles, I could use this drop down, and you can see I've already set certain sizes over here. So if I pick header, this text pops into this size. Why is this helpful? Okay, if you keep all your task designs in a design format, the great thing is down the road, if you decide for your portfolio, oh, I hate this font, I don't want to use it anymore, if you update Now watch, this font and this font is the same style. It's both a header 2 style. So if I just click on one of these and I change the font to something else, let's say I want to use Muley. If I let me use something more different though so you can kind of see. Say I'm going to go crazy and use this weird cursive. That's ugly, but it will help you understand. Let me use this one. It'll help you understand. Now watch this. If I press update, it updates all the fonts across all the slides, which is really helpful because when you build your assignments over time, you can change everything with one click of a button rather than going through every single slide and trying to make sure you have consistency. So I'm going to change this back to Montserrat because that's a really gross font and update it back, and now see it changes back over here. Now what do I mean by like nice alignment and consistency? I'm going to start all of my slides using set spacing. I'm going to have padding of 80 pixels around the edge of my page, and I'm going to make sure that all of my elements are 30 pixels spaced out, 30 pixels each. So this is 24, I'm going to make this into 30, and you can see there are tools that pop up. When I get to 30, it's telling me with these red rectangles that come up that that's equal. And if I just hold down any line of text or element and press Option, I can see the spacing between elements, so I can make sure, okay, that looks good, that's 30. Now over here, this is a different style of page. If I hold down Option, I can see that this is 80 padding. This is 30 pixels apart, and 30 pixels apart, and 30 pixels apart. And if I click over here, oh, that's 116. I would like this to be 80. So I'm going to extend this until it gets to 80. This is 88, right? So how do I fix this quickly without sitting here and moving this back and forth? Now it's 82. It needs to be a bit bigger. You can also just go up here and do some math. So I'm just going to add 2 pixels. That's easy, and now I can come back down and it's 80. I'm going to make sure these are 30 apart. That's 22. Okay. And it doesn't have to be this consistent, but you get the idea. Now there's a reason why this page looks clean and uniform and nice to look at. Also, if you're doing annotations, you can use just a circle. This is just an oval. You can see over here it's an oval, and it's at 40%, I'll do 50% opacity. So you can kind of use this to show what you're talking about on a page, and that's a nice way of making notations. Over here is a different page style, and it's still 80 pixels apart from the edge, 80 pixels. This is a little tight. Should be 30, so I'm going to change this by 8 and make sure it's 30. Now this is a little tight, so I'm going to add, I'm going to make this 8 pixels smaller, so that would be 63, and now it's 80. So this is deceptive, right? It's a very cleaned layout, but I'm paying attention to everything, and I'm making sure everything's aligned, and that this font, which is Montserrat Medium 18, is the same as this font, which is Montserrat Medium 18. You want to make sure everything is just nice and clean. That's all you have to do. You don't have to add a bunch of graphics, and you can build out different slides. You can save them all in one master file, and you can go back and reuse certain slides for specific assignments, and it can be really helpful for you. Sketch doesn't care how big your files are. You can create a whole bunch more slides here and have a whole library of design patterns for your tasks. And you should be able to pick and choose what you want to use for your assignments as you go, and build them as you go in a really thoughtful way. I hope this helps. You understand what I'm talking about when I say that you should create a layout for your assignments. Don't get too overwhelmed by it. It doesn't have to be crazy. Oh, and then the most important part, say you want to export this for your presentation. You just select all your artboards, okay? You want to make sure you press Make Exportable here, and then you can see they pop up. You always want to check off the background color unless you're wanting it to be transparent. And then you can pick the format of PDF. And then you can export the selected PDFs. If you don't have a PDF combiner, there are plenty of online combiners. Just Google search on free online PDF combiner, and you can upload all your files, all your PDFs, and they will upload into one file. Or if you have Adobe Acrobat, you can use that, or Preview on Mac, you can use that. But this is a nice way to practice design within the program you're using. I hope this helps.